Flashback 1.5 Sabotaged Car, Home, and Life. I knew that it'd be hard to fall asleep with all the wild Aunt Milmore stuff swimming around in my head. Add to that all the information that the last few days has stuffed inside me. There was no way I could sleep. I needed a sleeping pill, maybe multiple sleeping pills. And so I took 2 of them to be sure I would rest. I apparently promptly fell asleep, which is actually unusual for me, especially given all the stress. Fate written, torment yours, danger ahead. Hear me, why do you not heed? Echoed in my dreams all night long. I would wake. That voice would say that phrase over and over, more and more aggressively. It was not restful. The sleeping pills were not working, or I was asleep and having nightmares again. Maybe they were keeping me asleep so I couldn't wake up. Finally, I was saved by a 7 a.m. alarm clock buzzer that buzzed next to me from my radio alarm, saving me from the tormenting nightmares and that repeated phrase, fate written. What the hell did that mean? The doorbell began to ring. What? Who would be at my door so early in the morning or in the wee hours of the morning? In fact, other than the occasional Girl Scout cookie salesperson or online delivery, people just don't come to my house. I live in a remote area at the end of a cul-de-sac, on a hill. It is not exactly accessible or inviting. Trick-or-treaters don't even come by. I've always been a little cautious when it came to answering the door, and so peered through the peephole to see who was actually there. It was Deputy Taylor. What was she doing at my house? And so early? Well, without further pause, I answered the door with an inviting smile. It hit me suddenly. There was something different about Miss Taylor. Her hair was down. Now it was reaching down to her lower back, quite long. She'd replaced her skin tone lipstick with a slightly reflective silver undertone glossy lipstick. But still subtle, but definitely more feminine and more playful than her previous professional look when she was on duty. Was she not on duty now? Hi, I'm Deputy Taylor. She handed me a business card clearly out of practice that she'd given me previously. You may recall me from your altercation with the felon Aaron Graywell. She stated with an overly projected dominant female voice. I barely answered, hello? And she had interjected her business-minded needs immediately. Richard, have you seen or heard anything out of the ordinary since you checked out of the hospital? Deputy Taylor asked, in a somewhat alarming tone. She stammered what seemed to be out of character. Can I come in to speak with you about this case? Look, we can get coffee somewhere if you prefer, but we really need to talk it through, please. I told her that I had some bad dreams about Aaron Graywell, but it was not real. She explained that his truck was found a few miles away from my house, followed by a series of break-ins and thefts. They're not sure if there's a connection or any correlation between those break-ins and Aaron's truck, but she emphasized that Aaron may still be in the area. Or perhaps he took one of the stolen cars to flee the area, but that I needed to decide myself with caution and assume that he may in fact be in the area. She explained that's why she chose to come here on her own personal time, because she wanted to make sure I was safe. I'm out of her jurisdiction. I was super impressed with her commitment. I mean, wow. She drove hours to my house, crazy early, rather than just calling me up and talking to me over the phone. And she didn't even talk to a local police agency to do whatever it is she's going to talk to me about. I was impressed. Since the police believed Aaron had my wallet with my ID and address, they had speculated that maybe he actually did head my way, and that's why he was in my neighborhood. The bottom line, Deputy Taylor planned to coordinate with my local city police department to watch out for me over the next few days. She's apparently a woman of action and little trust, so she took it upon herself to be my heroine and my protector. Nice. Clearly, I am not the warrior I imagined after Erin kicked my butt and hospitalized me. Proof is in the pudding. I felt pretty good about Deputy Taylor being at my home, so I invited her in. I don't know how jurisdiction really works outside of television shows, and she seems smart, and so why not spend some time with her? And if she's out of jurisdiction, it is a personal visit, so hey, maybe she'll become my friend. I could use some caffeine and maybe a muffin or something, and I thought if there was any way Deputy Taylor might befriend my wife and me, I had to get to know her somehow. So yeah, I told her, coffee would be great. Of course, how does someone meet a new person for a friendship once you're an adult? Perhaps the answer is that you meet them through random life events, like near-death beatings by crazy felons. I imagine there must be an easier way of meeting people, though. Miss Taylor chuckled, looking a little uncomfortable. Perhaps she also wanted to be a friend, I don't know. Maybe she shared my hobbies or interests as she slowly got to learn them through our conversations. Or maybe this was just an entirely protect and serve business job for her to do. Whatever the case, we were off to an awkward coffee talk about a real criminal case that apparently may have me in danger. Miss Taylor asked, "Would you mind either riding along with me to Moon Joe's coffee shop or meeting me there? Also, would you mind if I looked around before we headed out?" I decided to drive myself to the coffee shop, both so I could show off my Mercedes SLK 55 AMG Black convertible and avoid being stuck in the back of a squad car, as I always hear that civilians are not allowed to ride up front in a squad car with a police officer. I would hate to be emasculated like that in front of anybody, much less being locked in the back by Miss Taylor. I had barely merged onto the freeway on my way to the coffee shop when my brake light warning came on. Oh my God, my dream. Erin Graywell messed with my brakes in my dream. In a panic, I pulled off the freeway onto the next off-ramp, but my brakes didn't work at all. Being an avid video game player, I was ready for this. I downshifted the automatic to first gear, which threw the engine into red line and drew the car to a near halt fast with a huge loud engine rev clang and sounded like serious jolts and banging metal inside. Lights and sirens went off behind me. Deputy Taylor was right there, apparently pacing all along behind me. I managed to come to a stop on the side of the road, whereupon she went straight into examining my car and investigate what might have happened. She spoke. "For starters, your brakes were tampered with, Richard." Actually pretty clever, really, how they were loosened so the brakes would work for a while, but would work themselves loose during vibration so that they would eventually have no grip or friction when ultimately driving. This criminal clearly had criminal intent to do harm to you, Richard. I think we should return to check out your house, given this may not have been the only thing he did. If he was inside to mess with your car, what else do you do inside? "Let me call this in and let's get going back to your house," Deputy Taylor commanded. "Yeah, let's get back to my house," I replied obediently. Deputy Taylor, looking apologetic, explained, "You'll need to ride in the back, Richard. It's nothing personal, it's just policy. Only police enforcement is allowed to ride in the front." She opened the rear passenger door, and upon closing it, I discovered that I was locked in without any way to open the rear door myself. I immediately felt trapped and, frankly, claustrophobic. I also felt a bit like a criminal being inserted in the back of the police car. I was sure it was just training, if not habit, but Miss Taylor carefully placed her hand on top of my head as she lowered me into the seat, I guess to avoid hitting the car itself with my head. I felt like a bad guy being taken to jail by a tough cop. As we drove, Miss Taylor cut to the business at hand, putting a further damper on my diminishing thrill of being just at least this exciting adventure, even if it was destructive. "Look, Richard, Graywell is a monster. He's got a history of hate and destruction everywhere he goes. He seems to enjoy toying with people, making them and their loved ones suffer. I really think Graywell may have decided to make an example of you. You stood up to him, Richard, exposed his identity. I believe he won't rest until you're seriously hurt or dead and feeling physical and emotional pain en route. She was saying some pretty scary stuff, candidly. Miss Taylor was all deputy to me right then. I couldn't help but start freaking out a little bit, hearing all that threat allegedly coming from Aaron Graywell to me. Damn it. He already put me in the hospital, and what more could he want? I blurted out. Well, we pulled into my driveway and she freed me from my transport captivity. She leaned into my personal space, grabbed my hand, held it softly but firmly, and placed her other hand on my head. She guided me out of the squad car safely, just as she had inserted me. Unexpectedly, though, the deputy ran her nails across my skin. Maybe it was an accident. I don't know. It was a little comforting, though. She said, "Look, I'd like to do that complete home inspection if that's okay with you before I head off today. We're going to have to skip the coffee. Is that okay?" I didn't expect her to say, "head off today." That felt nuts given all that's going on. I'm in mortal danger right now. And she's talking about just going back to her job, going away. I don't know. She's the police officer, not me. I need her to stay here so I can live a long life. Get to Ireland and get all that money. Get away from this madness. "Yes," I blurted out and stammered. "Sure, that's okay." I mean, what else was I going to say given the threat? I added, "You could stay as long as you want to, you know." I was kind of sheepish. She could tell I was scared and saw her as my protector. She unholstered her Glock 40 pistol and directed me to hang back at least 10 feet as she entered the house and searched each room successfully. I started thinking about that dream, that crazy dream. This was all very eerily familiar. Miss Taylor recalled some of the dream that I told her, noting that I claimed to have seen my car, gas meter, and furnace all tampered with. She said that she had discounted it as a victim's imagination gone wild in a dream, something common. But given my car brake situation, she said she would check things out. Maybe I subconsciously picked up on some sounds or clues. Deputy Taylor walked around the side of the house to examine the gas meter. Leaning in and tapping the meter, she said it was clearly tampered with. Several gas fixtures were loosened such that they would leak with very small vibrations from ground settling, bumps, or even a temperature swelling over time. She turned off the gas main to the house, snapped some pictures with her phone, and went to her car to don rubber gloves. She radioed immediately the situation and called for a crime scene investigation. Given her discovery, Deputy Taylor directed me to return to her squad car and wait for her to complete the remainder of her investigation, and specifically wait for the CSI unit to arrive. Taking my house key from me and making sure I got into the car again was her priority. Once locked up in the back seat, I sat anxiously, helplessly, trapped again. She entered the house. I sat there wondering, what was she seeing now? I was nervous. What was going on in my own house that I can't go inside and see? My anxiety was going crazy, with my finally freaking out and deciding to get out of there myself, despite the deputy's direction in the car. Click, click. Oh yeah, crap, I'm locked in. It must have been 15 minutes. Only 15 minutes. Even though it felt like an eternity to me. I waited as a prisoner in Deputy Taylor's squad car. I heard her voice over the car's radio while I sat there trapped, talking to some dispatch or a command center. She sounded alarmed. "Officer number 2079, Deputy Taylor, out of Newton PD, requesting bomb squad at 20211 Northeast 38th Court, Sammamish. A saran-wrapped white clay substance with ignition wires are attached to a cell phone and has been affixed to the inside of a furnace panel." Deputy Taylor returned from the house to wait for the bomb squad she had called in. I heard a sudden explosive bang and everything went reddish yellow and then black. Light fluttered in and out of my eyes, noise, garbled voices, words, sirens, lights, flashing. "What's your name? What's your name?" "What is your name?" Someone seemed to keep asking me, but I just couldn't focus. I could barely hear them. I didn't understand. It was so hard to function. I couldn't focus enough to answer. I tried, but words didn't come out. I couldn't even focus a word, not even my name. As though it was a major achievement, I finally got it out. "Richard." I began to say my name, but I fell short with any more words. The pain was just too great. I convulsed and reeled and shifted. I couldn't control my own body's agony. Still, there were no words. I could not focus. The pain was my focus. As I was rushed to the hospital, again, I was in and out of consciousness. I kept wondering what happened. There were 2 emergency responders in the ambulance with me. Although things were confusing and fractured, I was retaining a lot of the words and thoughts as time passed. One of the responders, in his late 30s, sporting thick black-rimmed hipster glasses and a Rasputin crazy long beard, was talking boisterously. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in my 15 years on the job. That was leveled. That place was utterly, completely destroyed. The paramedic clearly thought I was still out of it, or I doubt he would have been talking about such destruction of my house in such explicit detail. He continued, "They're gonna be investigating that mess for a week, I bet. Maybe more. I heard there was a big C4 pack that blew the furnace and the gas line itself, which then blew up the main gas. I guess it was supposed to be off, but there was already gas in the line. Man, sometimes crazy stuff happens. I cannot believe that thing blew that much with just gas. I guess C4 gas something, I don't know. The entire house, yard, everything. Boomo! Seconds! Unbelievable!" The second man looked like a 20-something lanky skater boy grown up to be a responsible, liberal emergency responder job. His eyes were wide and expressive. Whoa! It's so unbelievable! If anybody was in there, they would be incinerated. That cop is so lucky to get out of there and be in her car when it went off. I mean, blammo, blammo, like you said. If she was not in her car, she'd be gone, vaporized like smoke, just gone. She'd be alive, I guess. And then not. Blink of an eye. Man, lucky she was. His voice started drifting off. Holy shit. Miss Taylor's life was literally seconds from being snuffed out. Instantly. Because of my random drive to the Big Hut Roadhouse Cafe, an effort to be a man and stand up to Aaron Graywall, she and I could have died. I really don't know how to process all of this. Maybe I could have died multiple times now, just from Aaron Graywall and that incident. There are small decisions in life and they can have major results and impact. Like Deputy Taylor and I could be dead. Wow. What an epiphany. How enlightening. I hope that becomes wisdom for me.